Okay, salam alaikum. As being the last session of the day, I have no pressure at all, I believe. Okay, first of all, I would like to welcome everyone. It has been, obviously, the past 2 days have been like very busy, and all of us have been blessed with a lot of knowledge and information, networking. And I think it is a privilege that we can get from a place like this. Initially, I was asked to develop a workshop, but obviously, we can see the title, basically, workshop is not very apt for the arrangements that we have. So it's going to be like a kind of a mini lecture, one way. But if you want to interact with me, definitely that will be an idea. So the idea. The way I think I want to pitch this session is about basically we have heard a lot of good information, so it will be very counterproductive for me to repeat any one of that information. So I won't. So there will be a lot of stuff which I'll be in this case skipping. So the idea was development of sustainable purpose and models of the modern economy. Yes. So at the end of the day. We all had that question, basically, why sustainability? And to be honest, the reason we are talking about sustainability is because others are talking about sustainability, and the others, when I say others, is the conventional side of the world. And the reason they are talking about sustainability because they have made a mess of sustainability. So every time there is a problem, there is an issue of a time-lag issue, unfortunately, they start talking about it, they start, So I believe sustainability in present time, it is a very reactive approach from the other side of the world or from the conventional capitalist, basically, minds, in this case, the mindset. But there is a silver lining here. If there was no sustainability issue in the world, and you start talking about maqasid and you start bringing about our Islamic ethos in there, no one would care about you. But now the topic becomes very apt because they are in a situation they need a way out. That doesn't matter. Whoever can show them a way out, that is going to be basically, in this case, welcomed by the other side. So in my case, the question of sustainability, actually, there is no one set of parameters as far as sustainability is concerned. Sustainability means for different persons, different people, different organization, at different levels, it has different meanings. So it all depends who you are talking to. If I'm talking to Coca-Cola, if I'm talking to Saudi Airline, if I'm talking to anyone else, they have their own measures of sustainability. In your case, in mine, in your case, even with the financial crisis, we said, yes, it came, it went, but it did not impact my life. But actually, that was not true. You are paying incrementally higher prices for the materials or the goods of the things which were not that pricely before the crisis, and now we have to pay a price. There might be an increase in your salary, incremental increase, but that is also a fallacy because there's no point increasing my salary when you increase inflation from the other side. Hence, there is a lesson to be taken. If sustainability is not impacting you at the minute, it will impact you if you do not take care of that, because at the end of the day, we are limited in all of those, basically, all of those resources. And for me, I think the word resource means only one thing. If I have the Islamic hat on, for me, the resource is earth. Everything is coming out of the ground from the earth. So as it has been alluded before by my good scholars, that at the end of the day, basically, we all need to be responsible in order for us not to be in a situation where basically where we are depleting the world resources and then we are like, in this case, like reactively asking a question, basically, what shall we do? It's like a naughty child. After they've done something wrong, they say, what shall we do? Take me out, or basically like, in this case, like bail me out. Sustainability, the whole world has been very naughty, including us, even with our ethos and basically, but unfortunately, before it was their problem, now it becomes everyone's problem. So if sustainability is everyone's problem, so as I said, it has different motives based on personal experience, based on commercial freedom, and then there is the Islamic viewpoint. Now, for me, the Islamic basically side, basically we are treating the Islamic part of solving the problem. It's like finding a doctor after you have made a mess of your medicine or your medical situation. So Islam, in the end, is going to come and like bail us out, and we have to go into different areas and different teachings of Islam, which we were not cognizant about before. We never paid attention to that before. But now, somehow, it becomes important because we are all in this situation, and we need to basically, like, fix the problem. I'm not going to read that. We are talking about maqasid, and we are talking about, so in this case, basically, as far as maqasid is concerned, it is the purpose. The purpose is very, very important that we need to understand. And if we are making a transaction, i.e., is it a financial transaction? Is it a non-financial transaction? Whatever that transaction, either basically on the monetary basis or not monetary basis, the purpose of that transaction needs to be adhered to, and we need to ask the purpose. What am I going, basically, what is the reason for me to do this act, for me to eat something, for me to make certain decisions? And I think this is the key, in my opinion, if I don't go any further. If I just contemplate, I and you, if we all contemplate on the purpose of the act before we commit the act. Most of us, and this has happened with my students in the UK, we have Christmas holidays, we have Easter holidays, and that is the time for our students to go and relax and chill out, but they end up doing like, base 15 jobs or 20 jobs because they are in debt by that time. Because they were spending money without purposely. So they were indulging in certain behaviors without thinking, without understanding the purpose. So I believe Islam and maqasid, the ideology, the methodology, I think, to me, at times we are selectively unconscious, and we don't want to think and ask too many purposes, because 99% of the time, if you ask the purpose of your act, out of 10 acts, you might not even need 2 or 3. But if you go and act on anything without understanding the purpose, basically your list will be endless. So I think purpose is very important in this case. And then I think we are all blessed, because in our case, our purpose is to basically serve Allah, number one, in order for us to know the Creator. And then again, coming down to the level of how do we deal with people? How do we behave? How do we act, and all of that? And that moral behavior that we have, it transcends down to the economy. It transcends down basically in working environment, in commercial environment, in manufacturing and all of that sort of stuff, right? So to us, in order to, I think the first starting point, it is the purpose that we need to understand. From the holistically, we have certain measures that we can utilize in order to achieve sustainability, for example, okay? So we have the notion of zakah and waqf and ethical investing and halal tourism, and green. Now, all of these things are there, but we need to find its right place, its right purpose, its right mobilization in order for this to make a difference. At the minute, our zakat mobilization is very is not very sophisticated because it goes to very certain specific channels. It doesn't solve bigger problems. Although people are doing more and more charity, but the mobilization or optimization of charity is not in its best way in practice, I believe. So I think, again, we need to go back basically and visit. Actually, most of these dimensions that we have, either we have two motives. Either there is a profiting or basically an end result of gaining some kind of a profit, or we are doing that act because we need to earn hasanat or ajr or that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, to me, paying zakat becomes an obligation on all of us because we are privileged, as the professor said in this case yesterday. If we are privileged, so it means Allah has given us not because just to keep with ourselves, we have to mobilize it in the right channel. And the same thing goes. So now the issue is here. We talk about, for example, like circular economy, and we talk about sustainable consumption and all of that sort of thing. But unfortunately, if you look at the industrial age, all of these problems are industrial age problems. Before that, we used to have very simple life, and as the industrial age, becoming more and more advanced, and we can make more and more things that we don't even need, and and our consumption and our productions and our manufacturing processes, and those processes, they had a different mindset again. Before ethical discussion in the business world, it was only the motive was was gaining profit. So when your motive was different, then the end result is not going to be a sustainable environment. So I think it is the purpose that needs to be adhered to and talked about a lot more. And we have seen this value system many, many times. Basically, a lot of people have talked about the value system here. And they have said, so if you look at the capitalist value system, the capitalist value system is talking about business as an entity. It's talking about business maybe as a society. Okay, so at the end of the day, they are not taking this as a holistic approach. They are just taking these things in their own different like subsets. But basically, what is the motive of a normal business in a normal economic system? They would say to you that our business is profit maximization. And if you're going to only focus on profit maximization, then the end result is not going to be sustainable. Unfortunately, so this has been the mindset. And this is what we have seen in the West. Unfortunately, they have separated their religion from economic activity. So when you separate these two things, you break the institution of people and families and all of that. So people are not connected together. When people are not connected together, they do not think as an environment. So from the maqasid point of view, from the maqasid point of view, environment cannot be thought about without people. People cannot be thought about without the environment. So the economy, people, and environment, they are intertwined. So basically, the discussions have been taking place about mafasid and maslaha and all of that. This is because our methodology is telling us do not separate these entities. These entities are pretty much entwined together. And if they are not entwined together, then you will have different models that are going to cause the world in terms of either temperature, either pollution, or any other disease that carries with all of that overconsumption. So our society is not generating enough, or it's not basically because the entities, the business model, the ESG model, or any of these drives, they are still believing, in this case, like variables. They are not thinking again as a bigger picture at the end of the day. So if you look at the regenerative driven model, So the economy is embedded. Okay, so it cannot be separated. So we must look after that in order for us to have a society, have an environment that is going to be conducive over a period of time. So at the minute, this is the situation, and that is the current situation, and this is where we are at the minute, for example. Okay. So basically, we have transgressed, we have overconsumed, we have, all of this overconsumption has its consequences. Carbon dioxide, natural laws, oxygen. See, even when we are in our tallest building or whatever we're trying to do, unfortunately, as I said to you, Earth is the most important resource Allah has given us. And then on top of the earth, we have the trees. So these two things you cannot ignore. Because if you did ignore, if you start cutting Amazon jungles to make your best furniture and all of that, it is a short-term view. Okay, so basically we have to think about these things. Present situation, as we say, so basically we are, because of the industrial age, we are where we are. Because technology has progressed further and faster before we could think about how to tame that, technology and how to optimize that, basically. So as far as the greenhouse gases are concerned, the greenhouse gases, so we have different scopes and direct, basically scopes and all of that. So why do we talk about the greenhouse gases? Again, at the end of this, so basically when we become the cause of combustion and when we cause that environmental pollution, there are consequences. And as I said to you, this consequence is not only for the experts. We are going to be impacting basically one way or the other. So as a very below level example, I just told you, during the financial crisis, if you are not impacted directly, but as I said, you are paying for the prices because the price of the goods have gone up, inflation has gone up because of the financial crisis. The same thing has happened. The more CO2 emissions that you have, the weather becomes hotter, and there is a climatic change. There are people, like basically we are in March, and in the UK, it seems almost the winter, even now. So this is not a coincidence. This is a result of our actions. And in these countries, the summer are staying as long as possible. The winters are not going enough. So if you are in a climatic situation where, in this case, like summers are longer or the winters are longer, again you are paying the price. Again is going to impact your individual bottom line, because that money that you are paying towards the bills, that is a consequence of carbon, basically emissions, and the transgression that we have done towards the earth and the way we have done things. So obviously I'm going to skip on most of the things, so just enjoy some of these basically stats, because it was supposed to be done in a different. So don't forget now, okay? Perhaps this is important. The cheapest form of energy in this world is what? Coal. Coal is the cheapest form of energy. But at the minute, coal is the worst enemy of us, because we can't afford to burn the coal anymore but having said that, it is a natural resource that we have. Okay, it has its purpose, and it was perfectly okay 50 years ago or 100 years ago, but now it's not okay because we are over-consuming it. But now it's time for us to develop technology, the byproduct of burning the coal. So if we can capture carbon, then coal becomes a resource again for us. So now this is our duty of innovation and technology. We have to use, not just enjoy the present technology, but to use how can we innovate in terms of capturing the emissions of carbon. If you did that, the world is going to be a much better place. Okay, so basically our research project for the students and all of that, they are happening, and the West is really trying. They have a prototype. that they can capture carbon as well, but this kind of thinking is very, very important. It's not about coal is bad, just forget about it, basically go forward. But if Allah has created coal and it is the most cheapest form of basically fossil fuel available, but it's not the coal we have a problem. The problem is the carbon dioxide. So if we can capture that, we are going somewhere. Emission by sector, I was going to talk to you about different emission by different sectors, but I'm just moving forward. Some statistics, industry, transport. See, the transportation has not done badly, actually, because, for example, in the UK, most of the public transport is electric, okay? Even the buses are electric. But I have an issue. Those electric buses need batteries, okay? And where is the battery coming from? And the battery, the chemical composition, I believe is it cobalt? Yes. So that is basically a finite resource as well. So that is a good step. We should appreciate the good, but basically we need to keep thinking, at the end of the day. So just some basically stats because of the time of the hour. So we've got different countries here, China, United States, and different byproducts and waste and all of that. All of these industrial nations, as I said, we cannot tackle climate change or sustainability without understanding the industrial age, because most of the pollution that has been caused, it's by the West, by the way, because they are the ones who are driving technology. And 99% of the time when the financial crisis happens, it happens because of the top brains in Wall Street, not because of people who are not, because at the end of the day, it is like greed-driven or basically some of those. So most of these problems are they have been transcended from the developed countries. Okay, so when you give a cheap technology, for example, to India or any other emerging economy, for example, these people are going to utilize it to the best, and then then in this case the problem becomes transported from all the way from America to India, and then we're saying Indians are not controlling the emission gas when the technology was transferred by the West. Okay, so now the Western countries are setting up their bases there, or China or something like that. So I think there is a mindset we need to think about. But the greenhouse gases are a problem that we have. Okay, please keep that in mind. So basically, ecological environment, society, inequality, discrimination. So basically, all of these things needs to be considered. So we are, under the Maqasid-based methodology, everything is intertwined. We cannot think about the society, the people, or the economics as a separate entity. So we have, again, lots of stats, about the, basically about the pollution and all of that sort of stuff. And that is not just the end. If I had medical friends, they will tell you the new types of cancer and the strains because of the, because of the emissions and all of that. It's an issue for the world. Now, as I said, we talked about climate, temperature going up, and we are paying for that temperature. There's a consequence that is happening on our pockets as well. So temperature rise is an issue. So the ideal aim is to create energy, basically renewable, the water, basically responsibly, environment pollution. See, anything which Allah has given us for free, that is the answer to our problem. We need to respect those resources. I think someone was doing a research, and they said in one street, the amount of people using the water for taking a shower is equal to people in certain part of the Africa for a whole month for the amount of people are spending time basically in the shower. And even in our tradition as well, when we are making the wudu and we are going from one place to another, the tap is open. So all of those basically habits need to be, I think, thought about, because at the end of the day, it has an impact. Basically, the water, the energy, the natural resources, pollution as a consequences. So I'm just going to take you forward. So as I was telling you that any Islamic transaction, for me, the purpose again becomes very important. The purpose. If you are going to do any act and you really do not know the variable of purpose, then you are not thinking of the act. And if you do an act without thinking, there are consequences. You will suffer one way or the other, either by overspending or wasting time or by over-optimization of resources in terms of an organization and all of that. There is going to be a consequence. So basically, I was looking at different organizations. For example, if you have a delivery business, for example, in the West, we have got a concept of car sharing. We say, please, if you're coming to the university, please basically share the car. So not two people are coming in the car, one person is coming. So I believe this car sharing business on a personal level can be expanded. Basically, we have a lot of basic logistic companies. They oversubscribe to their deliveries. So there could be a joint venture between organizations. Okay, we are competitors, but we can use cars for deliveries as a joint venture, for example, in order to get the emissions down, for example. So purpose becomes very, very important in this case. In this case, obviously, we are talking about, in this case, like Human Development Index. At the end of the day, there are ecological footprints from different countries and all of that. So I'm just trying to basically highlight these, but I can go forward because time is of the essence. This research, you can have a look at it afterwards, but then I just want to, again, I'm bringing the maqasid area, because anything that is developed, either a model or a practice by an organization, unless you basically rethink the model in the framework of the methodology of the maqasid, you are not going to benefit from that in that case, like in frameworks. So basically it's very important. So in this case, basically religiosity and spirituality, plurality. Now, I think I have heard, in fact, in the networking meetings as well, I have heard about ethical organizations, right? And that was quite basic, amusing, music to my ears, I should say. Obviously, halal music, obviously. So basically, I'm saying that if we are talking about ethical organization, but these are organizations which are not human. They are run by people. But if you go to your HR, human resource development or hiring and firing organization, part of the organization, what is their criteria of hiring people these days? Have you thought about that as that? Is it the same Western measure of qualification? I'm talking about the KSA, I call it to people, not the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the skills, knowledge, and abilities. KSA, not Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, KSA. So I think until now, we have got new product structuring in Islamic finance and all of that, but we have not developed protocols and measures of how do we hire a person who is not going to, in this case, disrupt the ESG ethos of the organization. Imagine hiring someone who really does not give or care about your organization. His motive is to earn money, okay? And he's completely disconnected from the reality. So that person, the more people you have like that in your organization might be fulfilling some benchmarking criteria on a form that you are an ESG organization, but unfortunately, it is not going to be beneficial in terms of its true productivity. So HR systems need to be developed. How can Maqasid help us to develop new HR-based recruitment policies? Obviously, basically, we are not looking for highly religious people. We want people who have the value of basically, they have some care about other people. Doesn't matter, they don't need to be Muslims. Okay, as long as they have that inert responsibility of empathy and sympathy and relationship and all of that, if you can develop those ethos in your recruitment cycle, believe me, you will be far superior ESG compliant than an organization itself, just because it has this license or that license and ISO this and ISO that, and then you get the certificate. But the people who are running it, they are far from all of that. So I think this is where the issue of religiosity comes in, when we want to think about some of the practical applications of maqasid at the end of the day. Self-respect and dignity, there are many different basic ways that we have seen. A person who does not respect himself, don't expect any respect from him about you. So the same person, the people that we put in our sales, our frontline staff, unfortunately, they are the most unqualified. But they have the degrees and qualification. Now, I I have first-hand experience in doing market research, and I've been to an Islamic bank, and I said, I'm interested in Islamic product. He said, that's very good. I said, can you tell me why should I bank with you and not the conventional bank on the side? He said, yeah, because this is Islamic. I said, yes, but at the end of the day, is there any more base value proposition do I have here? So I said, tell me something about your product. He said, that is a leaflet of the company, please take it home. And then I have been to banks and I said, I can't read. I said, well, I don't have anyone at the minute, but ask a friend to read the leaflet. Why should you take our product? So these are the kind of frontline staff who really do not believe in the product. I have interviewed bank managers of Islamic bank who do not have their own bank account in that bank. But so I'm just saying we need to understand, just because we are making the organizational ethics, ESG compliant, the people are very important. Very, very important. And this is where the issue comes here. Okay, let's... so those numbers are our SGDs, the one we are talking about these days. So again, into basically a bracket of SGDs. Basically what, in terms of biosphere, why should we care about biosphere and all of that sort of stuff? Yes, we have to care about the biosphere. At the end of the day, the temperature movement and the hurricanes and all of that, they are coming from there. Like green economic transformation, we have different human developed index in different parts of the world. Okay, no time to deliberate on this one. How can we get there? I believe basically Sharia compliance-ness. See, the thinking about Sharia compliantness, most of the time, even us professionals, we want to make sure that our paperwork is compliant, which is great because we have basic ulamas and basically Sharia boards to go. But there has to be bigger objective of the Sharia compliant paperwork. There has to be some matrix that if we have a number of Sharia compliance contracts, how is that impacting in the real world? As long as so again, the concept of halal is present, but the concept of tayyib is not prevalent in the market. Okay, it's only focusing on halal. Unfortunately, I could say that our problems are not going to be solved if you only focus on halal. We have to think about tayyib, because we are in the sustainability paradigm that the others have made a mess and we have to clear that mess. In order to play our part, now the chicken that I eat does not have to be only halal, it needs to be tayyib, must be free like, like grazed and organic and all of that sort of stuff. So we need to know the supply chain of the chicken. So if I'm going to any of these fast food and junk industry, which is fine, again, that's convenient, but tayyib is very important. So if you start focusing on tayyib, first of all, our health will improve immensely. We will become very healthy, we'll become very sharp, and the society will function better. Just focusing on one part of basically Sharia, it can have a problem, and it has. See, the obesity in the Muslim world has gone out because they are only focusing on that one notion of basically halal. So now we need to develop indexes in our organization, even to the policy level. Are our policies are only halal, or there is a tayyib element as well? So it's not just down to like food industry. So there are other elements as well. So that is something, basic food for thought for you guys to like think about. Society, natural laws, economy, we talked about that. Sustainability, zero waste, regenerative. I'm just going to take you to see, when you innovation, is it ibtikar in Arabic? Ibtikar, yeah. So when you innovate, please don't innovate for the sake of innovation. It must solve not one purpose, but multiple purposes. Okay? So a Muslim innovation is not for the sake of the bottom line. And this is where our brother from Haji Tabungi just talked about, basically for value-based intermediation. Everyone knows about value-based intermediation, where we focus on the society, we focus on the prosperity of the product and all of that, and the byproduct of that effort is profit. And I'm talking about lots of profit, but not the prime objective. So the value-based intermediation, profit is a byproduct of the first two focus. But if you only focus on the profit, then it's not value-based intermediation. Because at the end of the day, every motive basically for any business is to have sustainable customers for a longer period of time. They want to stay in the marketplace as long as possible within the competition, and let any other, basically Porter, obviously if Porter has studied Maqasid al-Sharia, he would not basically scare you to death, but Porter has said to us that there are other people entering in the market anytime. Be careful and be scared. No. As a Muslim, our risk is written, the risk of my company and myself. As long as I'm adding value in my product and service, doesn't matter, anyone else can come in the market, customer will be loyal to me. And from Islamic point of view, let me just tell you one thing, that Islamic finance, this is a debate very much in the UK, and we talked about that, and unfortunately, the debate is not from the Muslims. It is from the Muslim, not from the Muslim student, because I had the privilege of teaching Islamic finance to only non-Muslims. And I don't get any problem because they come with basically a clean slate, and then you tell them they contemplate and all of that. And for Muslims, we are always asking complicated questions because they do not think that, because they are used to that capitalist market system, they don't see the difference between Islamic and non-Islamic product. And this is where the problem is. But again, thanks to financial crisis, it has shown the difference already. And I've talked about that in the UK many times. During financial crisis, by the way, basically when the banks were in trouble, people were in trouble, and people cannot pay their mortgages, their bank loans and all of that, because this is a conventional mortgage, the bank come basically foreclose for Americans, bankrupt basically people in the UK, for example, because they can do that, because the mortgage did not have partnership based, it was one-way transaction. So I have lived in that house for 20 years, I have decorated and all of that, but now I have to basically go out of the house because that is the right of the bank. On the other hand, Islamic mortgage or Islamic product or any other, I'm not advocating the mortgage, any Islamic contract, doesn't matter if it's a commercial contract, private contract, it offers you two things. Please take that home with you. The only two things an Islamic product offers you is peace of mind and security. And if we could focus on that peace of mind and security, then in this case, like, price becomes irrelevant. So our innovation for sustainability has to keep that in mind. Does my product, whatever I'm going to innovate, is it going to offer security and peace of mind for the consumer or not? Otherwise, you're not building peace of mind and security. In fact, you're building headache and insecurity. So this is very important, because all of those things are there, but when you put a maqasid methodology hat, you got to think differently. Otherwise, what is the difference, basically? And now the world is looking for an answer from us, because they have done everything wrong, basically. Okay, so I'm just going to basically skip some of these and just take you to something which I want to. So achieve SDG globally, Sustainable Development Goals, basically size economy, economic opportunity, and mitigate like in global risk. Most of the time, when we are trying to think about sustainability, we want someone to be like drive us towards the sustainability behavior. So we want the policymakers to make policies and laws and regulation and injunction for us to change our habits. It's because we do not know the power of circularity. We do not know that if we can develop systems and processes and basically and supply chain and manufacturing that is basically like recyclable, then the profit and the bottom line goes up. We don't have time, because normally I do basically a simulation model where I will show you an organization without any the notion of circularity, and then I will start putting the numbers in because they've changed certain parameters. In the end, they're about 32% better off in their bottom line than without, or there is a danger for them to basically lose that market share what they have. So time is an essence here. So as far as the SDGs are concerned, which we have seen it many, many times, project level business case, help align strategies and goals, enhance the reputation. So enhance the reputation of the innovation. Please remember that in mind. If you are thinking, the process of innovation or innovation which is maqasid-based innovation does not come after you have developed the product. It must be thought about before you are having that basic focus group, or you're thinking about embarking on that, okay? So that innovation, or that, because Japanese have done it better than anyone else. For example, they've developed kaizens and all of that. So those methodologies they had to be thinking about, because at the end of the day, if we could think about enhanced innovation means the innovation which is going to be beneficial. It will bring manafa. It's going to improve the situation. Basically, your rate of investment is going to be much, much higher, for example. So basically, I was playing with some basically simulation, and the numbers are basically startling here. That basically a lot of initiatives basically they have failed because the effort that has been put into is not thought through, or it's not enough. Basically, we just do sustainability just top line, because at the end of the day, it's not embedded in our systems yet. So basically, why do they fail? The lack of compelling cases for change, 25%, they lack the environment of their resources. See, as an organization, whatever you are, but you are part of this globalization network, okay? So you cannot do isolation. Unless you live on Mars, it's fine, but if you are part of this world, you got to think about your supplier. You got to think about the supply chain. You've got to manage all of that. Otherwise, your ESG or your sustainability is not going to work. There is no point having a tagline of sustainability when, in the process you have created more problems. For example, China has quite proudly eliminated the first SGD, reduce poverty or hunger, whatever, okay? But in that base, reducing hunger, they have created more pollution by having agricultural systems which are not sustainable. So they do something, and then they make exacerbation of problem somewhere else. So that is not the way to solve a problem. It requires a holistic approach. So I've got some examples there, but which I was going to talk about in different areas. So some examples how sustainability has basically worked in certain areas. Carbon footprint, why carbon is an issue here for us. And there are some good examples, but because those examples are in isolation, unfortunately, the difference on the ground is not as we expect to be, because the economy and the society and the environment is not the one in the capitalist mindset. Even if they're doing an ESG, they have so when you see a multinational corporation going to help out basically a flood area, or they're going to help out, this is their indirect marketing. They have no care about those people. They want to put their banners and basically their label, because they are still within the same mind frame. They are trying to help people out. But our mind frame under the maqasid is not the same. Our objective is not that. So, building futures which matters, indoor quality, thermal comfort, daylighting and all of that, the noise, pollution. So all of these are certain parameters where you have to have, I brought loads and loads of examples so that they can see the best practice, but those best practice are done in isolation. Again, we cannot see the basic material, in this case, like trickle over different challenges from housing industry to different area. So there are different frameworks in order to get different models and assessment, framework, because I was hoping if there are any different practitioners, so we can have a debate about. So in a nutshell, all I'm going to say here that sustainability, yes, we have to think about it, because it is incumbent for us that we cannot say because it's not our fault and they have created this issue, or the capitalist, their mindset is, and the MNCs and multinational corporations and all of that. If there is a problem, again, as a Muslim, as a duty, we have to solve the problem rather than going backwards. We have to look forward. And if someone is developing a policy, our policies and procedures should go 10 times forward-looking, not suffering from myopia. So our policy should be forward-looking and give a world a better place than we are at the minute. So at the minute, I think we need to look at what we have as best practice and see, basically, in this case, measure the purpose of our policy, our product that we are keeping, and see, does it offer peace of mind and security, not just for us, for everyone else. So stop making organizations, buildings, names, in this case, like goodwills and all of that. Start making individuals ESG compliant, then your organization would be in a much, much better place. That's all I can say. Thank you very much. Thank you.